something SUS News.
What? Like, almost like I take care and give attention and all that sort of thing to this.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I actually did read. Oh, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. We're just presupposing what might be happening in the next 10 years on this channel. Because in 10 years' time is when that sort of thing will happen. No, it never happened. But what I did because I'm very bad with the comments, and I've had to downgrade one of our commenters and viewers because they agreed with Bruce. And they were talking about the Parrot Anafi Ai, and quite plainly, I can't allow that to happen. We can't allow anyone to agree with Bruce. It's just not on. Yeah, they thought that the Anafi AI, as Bruce sort of thought, was a bit of a marketing hype and all that sort of thing. But there are a couple of them in the wild now. They have been spotted in the UK and in France and in somewhere with mountains, the name of which I can't remember. So there's definitely 3 in the world, if nothing else.
Bill Oddie has a new series coming on them in the next 6 months. He's going to be seeing them in the native wild.
Oh, I can tell you stories about Bill Oddie, but that's from another life. he's not television's most favourite presenter in the BBC Bristol. Anyway, so no, they're out there. So they've plainly got them into people's hands. I wonder how long before we start seeing. Good evening, Phil. There. I wonder how long before we'll see some genuine comments about them. No one's going to comment.
Will we even care?
I think so.
Do we know how much it costs yet?
No, we don't. I was prodding someone I know there. And they were...
This is all based on cost. At the end of the day, if it's £1,500, I think whatever people think, there will be forgiveness, if you see what I'm saying, in the sense of Mavic territory, something like that. If it's $2,500, we're then into, or plus, we're then into Inspire territory and big boy toys, professional territory, and I think people will be much harsher. I think the price point will dictate some of the feedback.
We're talking about the Anafi. Louis, good evening to you.
Fanboy's here. The fanboy is here.
The fanboy's arrived. He's arrived, so
he's got one.
Keep talking about it. He's got to have one. He's got to have one. They've got to let him have one. No. Yes. No. He's being inscrutable. Yeah. All right.
Well, here's the thumbnail.
Come on, guys. I'm the guy that signs NDAs. Don't forget about that.
Yes.
So
well, Ian was talking about the price. I don't think it's going to be £1,500. I don't know what $6,000 or $7,000 is in UK pounds these days, but I reckon it's got to be in that sort of territory. Very hot evening to you there, Matt.
What would you guys say if it would cost the same as a Mavic Air 2S?
What's an A2S? That's £1,000, $1,000, £1,200 in it. A2S, £1,100-1,200. I think at that price, it's a real competitive product because the camera fits, the tech fits. I think the interesting thing with the price is this: if we're talking about just the hardware, anything over £1,500 is a lot of money.
Yeah, you're just thinking about specific characteristics of the drone, but they must have a positioning of the system.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. If you're going to talk then the drone and the software capabilities and the package with it, then I can see that moving into many thousands because of the, Pix 4D and that in itself. So it really depends. If they're going to sell this as a package, I can see it being £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000.
Yeah, easily. Well, no doubt we'll find out one day, but I can't help thinking that this finding out one day is a bit of a problem. If they're going to start teasing it all over the place in other places without giving us a price, it's like, oh, come on, you've got to do it someday. You've actually got to release the thing. It makes me think about the release of the Solo, to be quite honest.
The weirdest thing though with this is my one criticism and contradiction of Parrot. They have told everyone they are not in the consumer drone business anymore. Yet this feels like a consumer drone.
Yeah, but their video makes it very clear it's professional for business. It's not at all oriented towards the consumer.
And the thing you posted to review, Bruce, yes, because there's an open source version of that coming. Yeah, review that Swan K1. Yeah, definitely. Because there's quite a few people in OG Pilot that have got them now, and yeah, be interesting to see how that thing goes, and also how to increase the flight time of the thing.
They're saying 60 minutes for that thing.
Are they?
Yep.
That's a jump. That's a jump. It was 40 minutes. It was 40 minutes before, and that was 40 minutes really. So an hour. Where did they get that extra 20 minutes from?
I think it just comes in the box.
So who are these people then? Because do you know what's really interesting? Two things I've spotted on this product already. Number one, they appear to be using phantom motors from DJI. They literally are identical. And number two, they're using an Osmo Action for the camera. So where's the tying here? Who are these guys?
HEQ, I think, is the name of the company, isn't it? But then they're coming out from what's that other lot? Who do everything? I'll remember in a minute. But I think HEQ is the company.
Well, here are the specs that I've got here. It says empty weight 1.2 kilos, maximum takeoff weight 1.75, battery 4S 5500, recommended range 35k to 40k, endurance time 60 minutes, windless weather, and it's 1.2 meter span. That's but the remote controls on 2.4. The control range is 3 to 5 kilometers. Its resolution of the screen is HD because it's got a radio control with a built-in screen. And the battery working time on the controller is 6 to 20 hours. I don't know why it's so variable, but yeah, that's about it. It's got 60-minute flight time, 1-click takeoff, 1-click return to home, rudderless design, 1-click flight mode switch, no space restrictions, so no geofencing. Yeah, and that's about it. Are
they trying to give you the version for mapping? Hello, Miles from New Jersey. Are they trying to give you the newer mapping one, or is it still the FPV one?
I think it's still FPV. I'm not sure. They didn't send me a lot of info. Just said, do you want to make a video? And I thought,
yeah, make a video. I'd like to.
Link in the description.
Is it the K1 they're asking to send? Is it? It's the K1. Well, because you've got the K1 and the K1 Pro, haven't you?
It's the K1 Pro.
Yeah. And that, of course, they're canting in of all the motors and all that sort of good things and absolutely zero conventional flying surfaces. So it's pretty cool.
I'll give it a go.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I know the Australian fellow's got one and he made 1 or 2 videos and we haven't seen any more. Oh, Louis keeps dropping in and out. I don't know why. And the... they have problems. They had problems with the GPS, I think, leaving China. I think it didn't work so well for a lot of people. So you've probably got to leave it on a battery or two. Oh, it's got a call. Got to be back. You probably got to leave it on a battery or two to let it know really where it is in the world.
Update its almanac.
Exactly. Or just keep it on for hours in your basement and then complain that your GPS is deaf. That is, of course, the conventional way of doing these things. So I read somebody today saying, why do I keep, does it really matter if I've been flying for 5 minutes until I get a GPS lock? No, that doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter a jot. Yeah, no, review it, Bruce. I want to see your review of that. We've briefly mentioned the Anafi. The price is going to be right then for everyone to come on down. Is that the bottom line with the Anafi AI?
Did you see the article? Or did you see the article that says that? I think who was that? A DJI friend posted it that these blue list drones are 8 times more expensive than the generic DJI drones.
Well, great. And they're 8 times more secure, if not 1,000 times more secure. That's the bottom line, isn't it?
It doesn't matter anymore when you've got Israeli people tapping your phones and you've got the Chinese hacking into you, whatever. It doesn't matter. There is no such thing as security.
I'll defend them here, but security also starts with the user. The drone can't call home by itself. At the end of the day, you pick up any of the products, you don't connect it to the internet, you don't connect the device to the internet, then it's secure. It's not got a SIM card buried in the bottom of it. So I've always had this argument where people arguing, yes, if you were a government agency and you plug it into Assistant, it's going to call home. I wouldn't expect anyone in their right mind using this for professional use that the data needs to remain secure is going to do that. There are issues, though, around warranty, and there are things that they do need to change. So, for instance, when the aircraft takes an image, when you take an image, it logs that image internally in the flight log as well, sporadically. It randomly takes images. They're not the only one to do this. Read a lot of the terms and conditions of many of the companies, including the newer Anafi as well. It's in their document that the aircraft does take random images and store it in the logs. The only issue with DJI is you cannot delete that now. So they stopped users being able to delete those logs, mostly because people were deleting the log that showed they smashed it into the ground and sort of went, it's not my fault, Gov. But there should be a way of you saying, look, this is a non-flight related issue. We want to remove all logs for data security purposes from the device. Hell, I think what they all should do is make that SD card accessible. All of these flight controllers have an internal SD card, just like the Cube, and they should have them externally accessible to the device so you can withdraw it.
You mean not stuck down onto the motherboard?
Yeah, but they're not the only one to do this. I know.
What's interesting, those SD cards, if it is one of the ones stuck to a motherboard, they eventually die because they have a certain read-write limit. So eventually that card will die as well, which means your drones are dead.
Yeah, and it won't
well, sorry, you've crashed it before then. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but there's a new one you can buy to replace it, so what's the problem?
Well, this is the weird thing, though, with DJI. There isn't. Where are they? By now, when did the Mavic Pro launch to? We are, for the company that put a new drone out every 9 to 12 months, where are they? Do there are no real, other than the Mini line, and that's really what's been driving forward. There's been no real development.
But is the transistor shortage having a knock-on effect with what they can
transistor? No, it's the valves. It's the problem with the valves. That's what it is.
I think it's the rheostats and relays, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You cannot get flux capacitors right for any amount of money. It doesn't matter how much you're willing to pay. 2016, the Mavic Pro. Yeah, the Mavic 2 was I think 2018. Plus 2017, end of 2018. It's a long time for them. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to come out in force. I do think when they launch, they are literally going to go, here's a new Mavic, here's a new Inspire, here's maybe something in between. And I've said this to 100 times. No one listens to me. I want a baby Hex. DJI, give me a baby Hex. Give me similar to the Unique H that actually works, please.
Yeah, small.
H. There's a blast from the past. Who remembers them?
Brilliant platform. I loved the platform. Frankly, I loved the aircraft. Apart from the one major problem, the wireless link that would fail in 200 meters. The Wi-Fi link wouldn't even do 2 to 250 meters from me. You didn't have to worry about line of sight. You wouldn't even get near it.
Well, that actually, all right, that swiftly brings up something. You mentioned a link. Well, what about the blue SEOS Here link out of a company I forgot the name of in America? It's $4,000.
Put a picture up, Gary. This is pure pornography now.
Yeah, this is safe.
Is it?
Yeah, this
really?
is
very nice. Yeah. So it is a Here link.
No,
it's a Here link in a metal housing with US
you
manufacturing.
Don't get out much. You really don't get out much.
I just like
unless it looks like a PlayStation controller. I'm not interested.
I wish the screen was bigger. Is my first comment on this. Yeah. I just wish the screen was bigger.
It looks like a to understand with this
70s boombox.
It is still a Here link. It is US classed as US manufactured. They've worked with Hex and Cube Pilot to produce it. It's got an aluminium outside casing. It's got a custom software on board. And I might have one to show people in a couple of weeks.
And
Does it really? Oh, that's what I've got some of those. Yeah.
So its battery is 40.
You've got one of those antennas. Look.
So
I'm building it slowly. This is my first bit
difficult.
of the kit I got. Yeah.
So they're using the case now to act as the heat sink, aren't they? So they're now getting the case to act as a heat sink. It's got a bigger battery by 40%.
And it comes with asbestos gloves.
Yes.
There is a downside. You know, there has been some complaints on Hurling overheating. I've still not experienced it. I think what people complain about and they don't realize is all of these smart devices will overheat. In fact, the CAA put out a document this week warning about it.
Nobody could have believed that things heat up in the sun. Shock horror. Come on.
There are
ridiculous thing.
that, you know, if you take into account these remotes, they're doing three things. They're doing the display, the smart device, and the radio system. It's all thermal. Now, people often say, yeah, but my iPad doesn't overheat. But your iPad's only doing two of those three things. It's not doing all of them. Don't get me wrong. You can always manage thermals better. There's always something you can do, but there is a limit to how all of these devices will cope. I managed to crash my DJI FPV goggles in the heat this week, and actually that wasn't a firmware issue for once. I managed to actually cook them outside. So everything is capable of failing.
Yeah, but I mean, the CAA didn't need to issue a warning about stuff overheating. I mean,
I do wonder what triggered that. I do wonder what triggered that.
Because people are not taking a map with them and using that as a piss poor excuse for wandering into airspace or having navigational uncertainty issues. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Is that the correct term? Navigational uncertainty. As I'm
temporarily uncertain of my position.
What's the HDOP of your sextant, Gary?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I am unsure of. I have a temporary unsurety about my location as I'm over the runway at Gatwick.
Well, funny enough, there was a problem with an airport and an ATC controller, wasn't there? I don't know if you saw that story, where two jumbos recently ended up going for the same runway because the controller wasn't clear and the pilots weren't clear. So they both got a bit of a telling off.
Tenerife, however many years ago that was.
No, it's like last week or something, last month.
Yeah, no. The big accident in Tenerife and the Bruce and I remember that.
The fog issue. Yes,
that one.
That's what we used to teach at Skytrain. We used to talk about that and how you've got to be clear in your communications because it's all part of human factors. You know, if you're in a rush or don't hear something correctly, you've got to get people to repeat themselves.
Send 3 and 4 pence. We're going to a dance.
Sometimes it's hard to stop people from repeating themselves, though, especially as you get older.
No, there's been a lot. I thought that thing from the CA was absolute nonsense. Stuff gets hot when it's hot. Shock horror. Who would have believed? Or
one of the USPs in the UK, was it UK or Northern America, was saying, keep your router out of the sun. Sorry, your router out of the sun, it will overheat. I think it was the UK. I hope Ian was listening to that.
Yeah. He's in a cold room now, isn't he? Because is the last
those panels right? That messed me around, right? That is what's left.
Everyone a winner.
He pulled the USB ports off one by one, inflicting maximum pain as retribution for the trouble it caused him.
I haven't actually cut it in half yet, just in case I do need it. So, because it will still actually work. Because knowing my luck, the new one will fail and I won't have one at all. But I will probably set this on fire at some point. That is the plan.
Deliberately.
For the pain this caused me.
So when you put that all back together, that will you be able to then say that's made in Wales?
This is made in Wales. This has because I modified this, Gary. I fitted the heat sinks with thermal compound. They weren't originally.
Was it made in Wales? Oh, that worked.
It's assembled in Wales from imported components.
It's made in Wales with imported components. I disassembled it, made some changes, and then put it back together. Does that not constitute made in Wales?
Well,
the fact that it doesn't work proves it's made in Wales.
Yes, or made by Wales. The FTC in America have issued some quite stern warnings, but hardly anything of a fine. I would have to click back to it, but I think it was like $12,000 an instance of something, of saying that your thing was made in America when it wasn't actually made in America, and it was assembled in America from
what are you
parts
doing,
from overseas.
Ian?
Just whacking off.
He's going to break something.
Oh, it's not your only fan.
That's a Deadpool reference there for those who did see the thing. Yeah, who do we think that's aimed at, Gary? Who that comment? Who is that aimed at? Because DJI don't say.
It's not DJI and it's not Autel. It's not DJI. It's
Okay.
not Autel. It's all the stand-up manufacturers standing up saying that it's made in the USA when it's not at all. There's many people saying made in the USA when they are just assembling in the USA, and they're being quite specific about the parts that they mean. They really do mean the autopilot. They really do mean, and here's the thing, what they really do mean, and they've said they mean speed controllers and motors. Now that's tricky. We know you can get
you get motors.
So are Autel at foul of this then, right now? And I don't mean to.
They're very foul of it. They're very foul
because our belief is the Evo 2 USA, or the USA manufactured version, is assembled. Even if you did pick and place in the US, that's fairly easy. That side of it is simple, isn't it, Bruce? The actual boards and stuff is the easy stuff. What Gary touched on to there, ESCs is easy. At the end of the day, that's just pick and place and put it through a line.
I suppose. Yeah.
The issue is motors and stuff. But there are companies in America. There's a number of very good motor companies, but
Yeah, have you seen how they make those motors, though? Because they've got a little lady there doing all the little windings and things. That's human labor. That's very expensive in the USA, unless you cross the border into Mexico, and then it's not USA, so you're going to bring all the Mexicans into America. But you can't compete with China on that basis. You've got to take that wall down, get the prices down.
But yeah, so it's because obviously DJI don't stay at all. So they're out of this ballpark whatsoever. So we've got the Anafi USA.
No, that's done. That's okay. That's cleared. It's okay. It's gone through all the correct hoops. Yeah.
So Autel USA, they
Autel,
potentially have some issues here.
And many American companies that have got products that are just assembled.
So where is the list on this, Gary? Is it on the document?
There's not a list of. There's no list of. There's just a you shall not say. And they did mention motors and speed controllers and things like that. But of course, this is across everything, every product in them that comes into America, not just our industry.
The electronics is really easy. At the end of the day, that is just the boards can be designed over there. They simply send the cards over, and they'll just pick and place it in the US and job done. That's simple. It's as Bruce said, it's that labor-intensive stuff that really becomes difficult, like the motors. To be honest, the big issue is going to be software. That's the real crux of this. If the US does really start to say, right, we need either full open source, no in between, or we need to see your source code, or it needs to be done in the US, that's where a lot of companies are going to struggle. Now, Autel have a bit of an advantage here. They've really got nothing to protect, whereas DJI have a lot to hide. And I don't mean that in a bad way, in the sense of they're the gorilla in the room. They're the leader. So anything they show is giving a competitive advantage to people below them. Autel have nothing.
Showing where they nicked it from.
Or showing where they've nicked it from. But there's nothing to hide for the likes of Autel. Do you know what I mean? There's no. It's for the most part, it's the stuff that everyone else has got.
Well, we can sort the software easily, as you say. Open source and the actual military prefer that now. It's a lot easier than getting that code all through your various certifications and things as well.
The problem is, where do you make your money then? Because you can't compete in terms of manufacturing costs with your competitors if they're based overseas or got lower production costs. You can't protect your intellectual property because your software is open source. What do you do? Where do you make your money? You just have narrow margins in your supply line, which means it's a race to the bottom and there's no innovation because there's no point. It becomes very difficult with that open business model.
You just get to be one of those 5, shortly to be 10 blue SUAS suppliers that charge 8 times the amount of, Yeah. Well, yes, I think we are seeing a little bit of that at the moment. We're seeing a little bit of cozying up to different units. I can see that's happening around and about. But there's make no doubt, DJI are making noises to try and, or is it Autel? Somebody's making noises to say, hey, this isn't fair. None of this is fair.
I want to know, is it just a coincidence that Parrot has become an accepted blue list supplier? At the same time, there is now a shortage of Moët and Chardon on the market. I think they've taken all that French champagne and they've given it to all the bureaucrats in the USA so they can get the Parrot in. It's so clear to me.
Yeah, well, you'd think they'd give them the decent stuff, though, wouldn't you? I mean, come on, just the cheap and nasty stuff.
But a Cristal would go down all right. Jeroboam of Cristal, like you've got in the cupboard behind you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I keep it down in the cave because, of course, only cheap people have wine cellars. We have a wine and cheese cave. I mean, as one word. Just relabeled as made in America. That would include South Central and North America, wouldn't it? No, it's a real...
Do you think that little province in Japan called USA will regain some cachet now?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Made in USA, yes. Yeah. No, it's interesting that the FTC are going after the badging. And I was surprised. Actually, I am going to pull it up because I was surprised at how small the fine was. So talk amongst yourself while I try and remember how small that.
These three-letter US acronym agencies, they're all about fines, aren't they? The FCC and the FAA and the FTC. It's all about dishing out fines to keep the government's coffers full.
Oh, it's a bit more than I said. It's $43,000 per violation. I mean, that isn't a lot when we look at the $2.8 million that were levied against
Hobby King
for their stuff. So yeah, it seems like a piddly little.
And the $200,000 against that drone flyer in Philadelphia or something. The guy that was live streaming his beyond visual line of sight flights with his DJI drone. Haven't heard any more about that for a while.
No, we haven't. Obviously,
I see he put another video up the other day though, so he's still flying.
Did he?
Yeah.
A flying one, not another ranting one.
Oh, I hate those rants.
I mean, it's almost like somebody might rant about I don't know, deaf people not being able to fly FPV.
But you see the bigger story in that rant, which I should have emphasized more. I may do another video. Is that the FAA are circumventing the rulemaking process, and I've seen this happen in New Zealand by government agencies when they don't want to have to go to public submission. They want to make changes without oversight. So they say the rule is you must follow this list of advisories, or you must follow this list of recommendations. If you don't follow the recommendations, then you're in breach of the rule. But we can change the recommendations as, when, and how we choose because they're only recommendations. They're not rules. And by doing that, you indirectly change the regulations. That's what they're doing with the CBOs in the USA. The CBOs have to have a list of guidelines which enable them to say what you can and can't do. And they're only guidelines, but if you don't comply with the guidelines of the CBO, you're in breach of the FAA's rule and you can be fined and you can be... So it's a very clever way of saying, well, we've made a rule and we can do whatever we like by just changing the guidelines. And of course, if you're a CBO lining up to get, well, you want to be a CBO, you've got to follow that advisory very, very closely or you won't get CBO status. And if they want to shut down the entire hobby, recreational flying, they just withdraw the CBO accreditations because under the final rule, the remote ID final rule, if you're flying recreationally, you must be flying under the guidelines of a recognized CBO. So if there are no CBOs, there is no recreational flying. You can only fly with a Part 107.
Well, surely, what's yours? 2021, isn't it? Isn't it 2031 by the time they finally sort that out?
No, it's 36 months or something, isn't it? 28. So it's only a couple of years before that's finally enforced, that rule, from the date of publication.
Complete cluster.
It's happened here. It happened in our local council. Our local council, when they changed the rules regarding drones in the parks, they said, oh, well, okay, what we'll do is we'll say, you may fly drones in the park, providing you comply with our policy. And the policy can be changed at any time without notification, without consultation. And if the policy says you may only fly a drone in the park if accompanied by a zebra, then that becomes the rule effectively. But they don't have to consult because they're not changing the actual rule, just the policy. It is a way that bureaucracies indirectly alter regulations and sidestep all the protection mechanisms that have been put in place to ensure they don't act without due care and attention. They can just basically sidestep it. And that's what they've done. The FAA has done that through these CBOs. That's why they've created CBOs, so that they can basically have an indirect path to completely change the rule set under which people must fly.
It's yeah, I can't see that CBO thing happening. They haven't rushed to resolve it, have they? I mean, we all knew who the main contender for that position of responsibility and power was 10 years ago, and they've not moved forward quickly with it.
Well, I'm going to hammer now. I mean, I'm going to really, really push this. You don't always need to have a visual observer when flying FPV. That's the big thing that I want to get across there, because let's face it, everyone flies without a visual observer when it's safe to do so. And I'm going to get them to say that the regulations must change, that you must have a visual observer when necessary to ensure the safety of an operation. Because you look at the analogs out there. Pilots are often given the discretion to make a decision based on whether it's safe to do something. Even you go drive on the road. Now, 30,000 people are killed every year in the USA on the roads. But the regulations give the drivers a huge amount of discretion. When you want to pass a vehicle, you may only pass if it's safe to do so. But thousands of people are killed every year by passing when it's not safe to do so. Yet they don't say you may not pass. They say you may pass when it's safe to do so. So we say to FPV pilots, you must use an observer you may fly without an observer when it is safe to do so. It's exactly the same as being able to pass on the open highway, even though passing is a very dangerous maneuver. The driver gets the ability to make that decision. Why can't they give FPV flyers the ability to make that determination? Because the consequences of passing at the wrong time on the highway is you kill yourself and someone else. The consequences of flying your FPV drone when you should have a spotter, well, so far, millions of flights have been conducted like that and nobody's died. So the consequences are much lower. So we should have the ability to make that determination ourselves.
Well, we all know that spotters are very useful, responsible, and capable, and that's been shown. Again, this is my act of summoning Louis back. You watch; he'll come back now, because a photo's finally come out for Gatwick. A photo of the time at the time of the sighting, and it is very plainly an EC-135. It's
a drone. It's got a light on it.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it is. It's got a light on it. You're absolutely.
It's a model helicopter, and therefore it's still a drone. It was much closer than it looked.
Really? Yes. Yeah, that's right.
That would be the official police statement.
Well, those people, that bloke that they lifted, he was a model helicopter flyer. So there we are. We put it all
They got
together.
it right the first time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Gary, can you show us the image if you got it?
No. You're presupposing I'm ready to go.
I think it'd be nice to see, what the actual image was. If you
I'll get it. I'll find it. I'll get it. Talk about yourself. But while I'm finding that image, then why don't you unpack what happened in Scotland? Somebody.
What happened in Scotland? What?
Yes. Don't you remember? It was just last week. The Scottish
last week.
policewoman.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, she was being stalked by a drone, wasn't she? That's right.
A Death Star. It was following her.
Yes. And it happened to, it could have been a Death Star, but no, it wasn't. It was a planet. That's right. A planet was stalking a police officer who mistook it for a drone.
I don't know about you. I'm fed up of these planets doing whatever the hell they want, right? Hovering up there in the sky, scaring innocent police officers when they're trying to do their duty.
To be fair, it's payback for NASA flying on Mars without an exemption.
Could you imagine if she had seen a string of Starlink satellites lining up across the sky? Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine how much everyone has taken the piss out of it? Because let's be realistic, it couldn't have been a fun few days, to say the least.
She won't be able to fly a drone because she'll be emotionally distressed now.
How can she? Well, looking up at the sky at night, she must be really confused. That's all I'm going to say. Looking up at the sky at night with all those stars being nice and bright. You know,
well, yeah, it's probably because in the UK you never get to see the stars, do you? Because you've either got light pollution or it's cloudy and raining.
Well, Scotland's got less light pollution. It's just, you know, the weather's a bit more out there. Yeah, but it was, I believe it was Jupiter was stalking her, wasn't it? Is it Jupiter? Is that right?
Wow,
something like that. Big red eye that confused her.
But how could they work that out when we've not been able to work this out? There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
So
this was 135.
So that was taken with a 600mm lens, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure Gary will correct.
Yeah, 600mm. It's on the 600mm telephoto lens.
And how the police cannot tell what that is beyond me. And go, hang on a minute, we've got the EC up. Where is it in relation to this image? We can see it's a helicopter. All you've got to do is cross-reference it with ATC, unless their system is down. So you should be able to cross-reference what you've seen, what direction, what it is. We can quite clearly see. You know, it doesn't take a detective to work out that's a helicopter. And if it did,
I have the ADSB traffic for this very time, and that helicopter is on the ADSB at that time, but it's mode S, unfortunately. Oh. And whilst I've got it coming down from London and then going back up to London, the actual through Gatwick overhead, it's not there. But it is definitely in the air through that whole time. So there are air traffic tapes and there are proper radar tapes of that somewhere. So, there are.
Well, providing that system was working. Because there is, of course, a rumour that the ATC had issues.
Well, again, I heard that very, very quickly after the incident. Even in 144p, it does even look like a helicopter in 144p. It was definitely it went out to the west of Gatwick, did a job, and came back through just north of Gatwick, and then routed back through Red Hill and back up to its base in Liffitz Hill, north of London.
So if you have the timings, it went. Oh, you don't have the timings of when it was.
I do have the timings for when it was.
Do they link up to the
Gatwick
time?
Yes, they do.
So this adds a whole new dimension to the term credible witness.
It does. Yeah, so all these credible, because remember, at Gatwick, the drone sightings were all at, anyone? They were all at
the airport.
No, at night. At night. They were all
I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
You can try again until you get it right, Gary, and then you get a little certificate printed out. Yeah.
So all the drone sightings were at night. You know, it was a light in the sky because there's no credible witness had any kind of imagery of a drone. However, a helicopter, we have a photo of. And it's now looking more and more likely, in my opinion, it was just someone maybe pissed off on the way home from work.
Let me put my devil's advocate hat on. What was the helicopter doing flying around for 40 minutes at a time?
It was routing through. It was just routing
40 minutes.
It was doing its thing north and west of Gatwick. Yeah, it was doing its policey thing. And the police helicopter. Police helicopter in a police helicopter kind of a way.
So we should be seeking compensation from the police, or the airport authority should.
Anyone at Gatwick who was didn't get a flight, got it cancelled, they should all be seeking compensation for mishandling of this.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. It was the mishandling, wasn't it? And the CAA in the UK are backpedaling fast, saying, "Oh no, we were only giving you advice to close down. You didn't have to. We're only telling you for safety's sake. It might be a good idea."
I'm thinking we need much stricter helicopter regulations to prevent this sort of thing happening again in the future, don't you? I mean, if it's good enough for drones, good enough for helicopters.
Yeah, I think manned aviation now, helicopters. You know, you can get model helicopters with those blades that light up. I think now it should be mandatory for all manned helicopters to have lights on the blades to light up.
Amazing sponsorship opportunity going along back and forth. Eat at Joe's as it's flying up and down all night long. It'd be fantastic. Yeah, let's start. So we make a lot of money selling that. That's what we need to do. Blast.
Do you remember that guy? I think you had him on the stream. They had the drone that lit up with writing on it. Yeah, what's happened to that? I haven't seen one of those for a while.
No, he did exactly do that, didn't he? And yeah,
not get sponsorship from Dragon's Den or something. Wouldn't that be the way to go?
Something like that. Yeah, very much so. But it's just a Horlicks. And remember, I'm going to make a number. I'm going to make a number up, but the number is definitely greater than 100. The number was greater than 100 credible witnesses, is what the police said.
It was
100 at the time.
One of them wasn't a police officer from Scotland, was it? Female.
Yeah, well, right. So, but they said that, and how many actual written statements are there, or descriptions of the alleged craft? Actual written descriptions, zero. There are zero, none, zero, zilchawuni, none. There are no written descriptions, and that is confirmed by the Department of Transport, and it's confirmed by the police as well now. So
there's no daylight sighting ever at any point, or daylight reporting. All the timeline ones are at night, so it's really, really bizarre. Like you say, you got 107 credible witnesses. They're not credible.
And have you noticed how quiet the media's been? I mean, they've had an opportunity to blow this whole thing up and say, look how bad it is, but they've all been very quiet because they were quite complicit in this by perpetrating the deceit and the misinformation. We don't want to be seen to be having got it wrong, so we're just going to mention the fact that it was a complete fiasco. No, we'll just keep quiet. Hackerday's done a thing recently in The Guardian. That's all I've seen. The only inquisitive, sort of investigative coverage of this subsequent to these revelations.
Well, it's our Ian, isn't it? The other one, our Ian, has been pressing the buttons and keeping going with it, and really made the difference, and will come out as the hero of the Battle of Gatwick. But as Snapshot Drone says, what was going on? I know I was, in the tinfoil hat brigade, having heard stuff from sources outside of the UK. That there was shenanigans going on to do with air traffic control. And there were other, that's what the story that needs to be joined up for me, is the fact that there were other air traffic agencies at Birmingham. Heathrow had a little scare, and then somewhere in America, in South Africa, we also had an air traffic scare at about the same time. If somebody could make the kettle turn on in an air traffic control tower remotely, that would scare the bejesus out of the air traffickers. Forget hacking the radar, forget hacking the comms, just make the vending machine operate, and they'd be terrified. And I'm afraid I'd like some grown-ups to look at that more closely, that aspect of it. That's my thought anyway.
I mean,
anyone else?
The ransomware problem that's been going on for a few years recently, it could quite easily have been ransomware that got in there. That's all it had to be. And they go, oh crap, we need something to cover this up, because we can't be seen to be hacked like this. Could you imagine the storm if that happened?
Was the system running on Windows XP?
I think that upgraded to Vista.
Here's a genuine question. Half
probably
still runs on Windows XP. And there is a genuine question here that this could be as simple, because remember, the NHS was hacked the same year.
Yeah.
Right? The NHS was taken down the same period, same year. This could genuinely be as simple as someone went in on a mass known vulnerability that no one's updated. There's some server in a corner that no one wants to change because it just works. Trust me, every big business has got one. There's a server in the corner that everyone looks at and goes, we really need that because it does this thing that we can't do with a modern computer. Let's pretend that doesn't exist. Sits there on the network until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
It's not a
all my
sexy
computers
story,
are like
is
that.
it?
No.
Yeah.
Because what I mean, Ian's so right. Because what tends to happen, the company I used to work for, I won't name them, they did like an IT trace of all the hardware, what systems they needed, and to get something from the shop, order in a shop, to get it to come out from the warehouse, there's like 30 systems, because companies just buy companies and they just put this little box that goes, right, that'll handle their bit of software, but then it's got to talk to this other thing. And they just leave it there sat for years. I missed that one. What was that about navigation lights?
We just get rid of navigation lights on helicopters. It's exactly right. Yeah, then the problem would go away.
Well, didn't Yasa say green flashing light was going to be the way forward? So we know where start. I was going to say start.
Yes, so Back to the Future, wasn't it? A green flashing beacon back in the day, in the 40s and 50s.
I don't remember. I'm not that old.
I think that might be a little bit Back to the Future.
The Yasa rules and say they did say we're going to have it, so it's a green flashing light on all drones was going to be the plan.
Oh, for us. Oh no, yeah, I still prefer the French one. I still prefer Morse code on the lights. That's I do. That is quite a good idea. If you can read Morse code, it's not a bad idea for your remote ID. There's no devices required at all. It can only be intercepted by a camera, I suppose.
Yeah.
But what if your BV lost?
No, it's only the copper that's got to see it, isn't it? Yeah. It's only the copper. He's only got to, which is, and then by the time you give your lat long for your position, your operator ID and your name, that'd be a lot of Morse code to remember. You got
that would be safer. Be safer because Jupiter doesn't flash.
There you go. You see, it'd be very hard to get it wrong, wouldn't it?
Confuse it with a planet. Yes.
Well, Gatwick is. I don't know what point there'll be an apology, if ever.
Do you think we'll ever know the truth? Do you think they will ever admit they messed up?
I think it might be once we've dead and gone with the old 100-year or 50-year or 75-year official secrets act stuff. I think.
Do you think it'll be one of those ones where the chief of police changes? Because we've seen that. So the chief goes, whoever it is, and then 3 years later, there's an apology for something the former force didn't do properly or something like that. Do you think it'll end up?
Well, it might do that.
Well, I said at the time they're getting themselves into a complete Chicken Little situation, and that's exactly what happened, isn't it? The sky's falling in. Whoa, run around. I'd still love to see the senior air traffic control officer's log for that, not where he sat down earlier in that small room, but I'd love to see what is written on the official logbook. I'd love to see what was written, because the time the telephone call came in will be there. Who it was calling in will be there, and then the actions they took, and then why they took those actions will sort of be there. I would love to see that, but that is hidden from Freedom of Information Act requests. You're not allowed to ask for that sort of thing, so we can't see that. But if someone's there and can nick it, I'd love it. Bring it on.
We're not promoting corruption and bribery at all, but if you can find it for us.
Well, corruption and bribery. Thales are in court with our ex-president. He's actually had it adjourned for another 2 weeks. But all our rioting and looting that's happened in South Africa, partly out of the arms deal that Thales was involved in with the ex-president. He's saying he's innocent, but there's an awful lot of evidence to prove that Thales and him are not innocent.
And an awful lot of innocent people.
So thanks a lot, Thales. Thanks, defense contractor. We've had a great time because of you recently. People are beginning to call them here the Thales riots. So thanks. And Wolf's mentioning terrible floods in Germany. Terrible. Quite extraordinary visuals we're getting from that. And the drones are used to check in unstable ground and stuff like that. So yeah. Best of luck to you over there in Europe. It is
I
awful.
I reached out to one of the German companies I've had some involvement with and just said hello and just said I hope you guys are all right. And some of the stuff you've seen is just bonkers. Do you see that street where it's like 10 foot down? You know, the sub sewer drainage is now sitting on the surface, let alone it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
They must be carefully balancing the risks of flying a drone with the risks associated with the flood. Must be a very difficult decision to make. Do we endanger people by flying a drone, or do we not? I mean, it's terrible.
Well, it's all bets are off, aren't they? When that sort of thing happens, and suddenly it all becomes very useful and needed. And why haven't we got more? Why haven't we done more?
You've got to keep out of the way of the rescue helicopters, though, eh? That's the thing. All the rescue helicopters be grounded if somebody gets a drone out of the wardrobe.
When it comes to that kind of thing, it is interesting because the drones are more versatile at finding people, but you need the helicopters at times to get them out. And, managing that just gets interesting.
Yeah, but the thing is...
It doesn't really, does it? The drone operator goes, here comes the helicopter, best I land.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the thing. The premise seems to be amongst the idiots that everyone with a drone that is anywhere near a helicopter is going to be trying to knock the helicopter out of the sky. Whereas we know that if you're flying a drone and a helicopter comes along, you keep out of its way. You don't deliberately go out to knock it down. And it's very hard to not notice a helicopter that is close enough to you for you to be a problem for it. And it's like, when they're fighting fires and things and someone sees a drone, someone getting a drone out of their car boot, a mile away. So they ground all the firefighting helicopters. Why? I mean, if they wanted to knock a helicopter down, they'd use a rifle from a concealed position. We're not out to knock down these helicopters and things. They just assume the presumption is that you, unless you can prove otherwise, are trying to do bad things with your drone. And I don't think that's reasonable. We don't assume that everyone driving a car is trying to knock pedestrians down and shout Allah Akbar. I mean, no.
Well, that's the demonetization shot right
there. Shot, thanks, both of you. Yeah.
So what's interesting though, something like a Mavic, anyway, it can't take what a helicopter's going to do. If you get caught in the downdraft of a helicopter, you cannot beat it. Nothing smallish. Phantom 4s, your Mavics, they cannot beat the downwash. The prop wash of a helicopter will just blow that drone away and actually force it down into the ground. There was that surfing event, wasn't there? And that little drone showed up and that full-size helicopter got pissed off with it. So
that was only a Robinson, wasn't it? So little Robinson helicopter.
Yeah.
Even when we have had collisions with helicopters, the damage to the helicopter has been minimal. Nobody has died. There's been, I think, a couple of precautionary landings, and that's about it. The worst one was when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police flew their great big industrial drone into their Airbus helicopter, and even then they landed safely and trailered it all away.
When they were operating together in comms, and they still managed to hit each other. But all that said, I do think a matter of etiquette and politeness is don't go sightseeing. It's not cool to think, there's some drama or whatever. I'm gonna fly around it.
Some of it is warranted because I took a load of footage of a flood down with us 2.5 years ago, just to do it. And that footage ended up being valuable for the people who wanted to sue the local port authority for failing to maintain the flood defenses and stuff like that. So it can be a good thing. People in the car accident on the side of the motorway is never a pretty position to be in, but everyone does it. But random footage can also be good use as well. You might not know why it might be needed in 5 or 10 years' time, but as you say, it's how you do it, not what you do, I suppose is the right term, isn't it?
Well, don't be like one of the early days of SOS News, where that was the River of Blood story, where the abattoir in Texas was had laid a pipeline into a river, and it was with what? Do you remember that thing called the DSLR exposure, which was just a fixed wing foam thing that carried the big camera, and someone was test flying with it. And if you don't know about that, it's from the old days, dear viewer. But the person flying it saw that there was blood in the river, and then realised there was a pipeline from the abattoir going straight in there. And that went nuts. That story went around the world, went nuts. And Texas changed the law to make it illegal for somebody to capture aerial imagery that could then be used against the business like that. They changed the law so you couldn't be that sort of what would the
that's
word
the
be?
interesting thing, isn't it? We look at why we've got these really tough regulations controlling something that has proven to be incredibly safe. Why would you over-regulate something that has never killed anybody in the entire history of mankind? And then you look a bit closer and you see, well, like in the EU, you don't have to register your drone if it's under 250 grams unless it has a camera. How much of this is to stop us seeing stuff we're not supposed to see versus how much is it to protect human life and property? I think there has been an enormous amount of shift towards just controlling what public can do, what they can see, where they can go with their eye in the sky. I think that's basically what it's boiling down to now. It's not about safety so much as just control.
I would almost be willing to predict that at some point in the future, they're going to say, if your camera is a certain resolution, you can't take shots straight down. Because, you know, like Google, it's not high res, is it? It's decent res, but Google Maps at a certain point, it gets a bit blurry. But our data captures a lot sharper, a lot better. I wonder if at some point someone's going to come up with a law and go, well, if it's more than like 20 centimeters per, if it's better than 20 centimeters per pixel, you can't use it in any way. It's illegal, like in America, in Texas.
Here's a good open source project for somebody. We've got Google Earth, right? And as you say, you get down to a certain resolution and everything's a bit blurry. Why doesn't someone create a Google Earth add-on that enables people to upload their own drone footage and overlay it on Google Earth and get this? Oh, yeah, I thought you could at one stage, but I couldn't find it.
You can, because I did some of the first images, clearer images around here are mine.
Can you still do it?
A glider. I don't know if you can still do it. But
I know you used to be able to, but I thought they discontinued that because I've been looking for that.
Maybe.
I haven't been able to find it. Maybe they thought, oh, that's going to compromise our monopoly. We don't own these images or whatever. I don't know why they chose not to. Or maybe the government said, hey, we're not having this. We don't want you seeing Mrs. Brown, the mole on Mrs. Brown's shoulder as she hangs out the washing. So, but I mean, it'd be a great open source project.
But killer moles come out of the ground. That mole, look at the mole on Mrs. Brown. Yes. Perhaps not. Well, you're saying right in there the US literally had a law making satellite image of Israel below a certain resolution. Well, I know there's several satellites you can buy 20 centimeter resolution now of Photosat. Yeah, that's one of them. That's 20 centimeter resolution. That's not bad, is it? From space, that's an awfully long way away.
I remember a lot of the Google images are done by a mapping aircraft.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially over urban centers. Yeah,
I was going to say I would send out the Believer for reasonable prices if anybody wanted to, but unfortunately my camera died on job.
That'll happen.
It just
after the crash.
Yes.
No, the most bizarre thing ever. So before we went to the actual site,
we'll be the judges of that.
I formatted the SD card in the camera. So we got several micro SD cards, formatted them first, because obviously you don't want to be doing it in a grass field because you know you're going to lose them. And then we went to site, took the Believer, got to site, walked a kilometre with it, got everything up, took 3 photos with the camera again, everything's working, connected up to the flight controller correctly, I must add, and tried to trigger a mission planner. The camera just didn't want to work. It just died. And it's like, no.
Well,
have you seen the red aerial nano?
Well, no, that's a box.
That's a box.
Yeah, look, I've got one here. Yeah, here it is. There's a green aerial nano. Go and get it out of the box, you old duffer.
NDAs, mate. NDAs.
Oh, NDAs. Oh, there you go. Yeah. What's in the box, Bruce? Really open the box. I'll take the money. The Russians offer better areas. Let's see what we'll say. Yeah, there's no. I think the idea of limiting the resolution of aerial imagery. I think that ship sailed, doesn't it? Because then that's aerial imagery from my kite, from my Cessna, from the 747 as I go past, from the. I mean, all the times that the airliners used to especially the Aeroflot, used to ask for special routings, or they needed to do whatever. You can guarantee they had cameras on board. Those ones that were always routing other ways.
Didn't Russia withdraw from the Open Skies system?
No, I think America did.
I thought it was Russia that we said we're out of this.
I don't know. I didn't follow enough.
We've got Elon Musk putting up all these Starnet satellite things. How much more money would he make if they all had a camera in them?
He's going to make so much money it won't matter.
No, not necessarily. If you go and watch Thunderfoot, he's done a video on the economics of it, and it's not actually as economically viable as you might think. But if he was able to do mapping with sort of like a 20-minute latency of any part of the globe, that would be a very valuable thing. And also the military pay a fortune.
The military, yeah. Yeah. Well, there's any number of sensors you could put on board and gather data, any number of simple RF receivers that you could have going around the world, and always listen on, well, all right, let's make it a pleasant thing. Always listen, rather than a nefarious, always listen out on the distress frequencies, so 121.5, 243 and 406. And just do that. The whole planet, ka-ching, and then geolocate it quickly as well. That would be fantastic for humanity, or something like that.
That's
or maybe
nice to track
it's
that.
about wallets. It's all about wallets, mate.
oh yeah. Well, maybe you could just select some frequencies to listen out. Just fly an SDR on there, a really good SDR on each one, listening. Just imagine the VHF coverage, and UHF. Well, it would be perfect, wouldn't it? Well, I guess it would be close on perfect.
And he's planning to set them up as a mesh network, so he won't be reliant on any ground links to transfer the data around the world as well. So who's going to hack into that world? Do we have armies of Chinese and Russian hackers trying to break into the Starnet network and get all the information? I don't know.
Dan saying daily imagery for the whole planet. Well, of course, the forgets name of the European satellite network that is every 4 days it completely updates the planet. I can't remember which environmental, but that's not with imagery. That's with it's NVIR, another.
The crop one, the one that does all the cropping.
Copernicus.
That's
so
it.
every 4 days, and it's free. That data is free and open source. So one of the arguments I have with people doing the farm stuff is, well, and that's 10-meter resolution, and that's kind of good enough in a lot of instances. So why do I need to get your services in when every 4 days I could have the entire planet? I
used to do loads of crop flying. I spent 2 years flying EBAGs, and it was the satellite data that destroyed that part of the industry in the UK. They just went, why is this costing so much when you can just use the satellite data? Oh, because we're getting down to 10 centimeters, and they're going, no, the satellite doesn't matter. If you're going to spray crops, you're not spraying to like 10 centimeter squares. You're not doing that because the spray's going to drift anyway. You may as well, it's no point.
Yeah. And I know that the supermarkets in the UK are using that data to generate maps of the carbon offsetting that some farms are claiming that they're making and doing. So they're tracking what they're doing, and if they're not doing it, they're saying, well, sorry, you're going to lose your contract with us. And that's entire farm based from that Copernicus imagery. So it's all out there. Gosh, we've gone off the topic talking about satellite. We know nothing about satellites. I often put satellite stuff in SS News because it is going to form part of the comms piece. It's definitely going to be forming part of the communications piece moving forward for BV loss and all that sort of thing. So we've got to keep an eye on it.
Well, BV and satellites, I mean, the Mars one is still flying.
Yes.
Amazingly. I mean, he was only meant to last 3-4 flights. They were like, if we get 3 flights out of this, we'll be happy. And it's now done even bigger hops, gone higher than before. I mean, it's astounding, really.
What I want to know is why isn't there a knockoff on Banggood already? That would sell like hotcakes.
It would actually, just a model of it wouldn't it? Or just They make a well. There we are. This is your next product, and getting 3 flights for it. That's Ron's mantra, isn't it?
That's more than you usually get out of a Banggood coaxial helicopter.
Yeah. Daily reducing tire planet from Planet Labs. I'll have a look at that, Dora. I'll have a look at the Planet Labs things. What else? I was going to say something else in there, but I can't remember what it was. What other stories have we seen that's really caught our eye this week?
The drug smuggling drone.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Is that the one that smuggled a packet of cigarettes into a woman in a Brisbane hotel?
Oh, no, that's the other story. No, this is was it in, I want to say it was in Spain. Was it in Spain?
Yes. 4.5.
Like the big, and what I love about that is, that's the one that everyone's painting up and go, look at our super duper delivery drone. Oh, they didn't bother painting that one up. They didn't say drugs are us on the side of it or anything like that. It's like,
I mean, if you're going to use something to drop drugs or do stuff like that, you paint it up to like it's an official drone.
DHL.
So you just say, like it's a delivery drone of some kind or something. Make it look official, and then when the police do see it, they go, they see it flying along, you just go, oh, it's one of those new delivery drones.
Well, I mean, they caught it completely intact, so
it must have been either on the ground. It must have been on the ground, or they hadn't yet flown it. It was on. It was en route.
Yeah. It's a very shiny new, isn't it? It doesn't look like it's flown. But
if it flew once, maybe twice. It didn't look well used.
There must be a big market for autonomous drone delivery aquatic craft that just with solar sails and things, GPS set them off across the ocean and where they're going to roll up and track them on your phone. And there must be I wish we should get into that market.
There is a huge, and for submarines as well in Mexico, or off from whichever bit of water they go. But I know there's a big thing for submarines there as well, autonomous submarines.
So, Elon Musk has got his new drone ship. Something of Gravitas, it's called. I forget what its full name is. The shortfall of Gravitas, his new drone ship, which is to catch the Falcon 9. That's his new one. It's a drone again. It's on the water. It's amazing. This thing just goes out, goes to where the Falcon 9 is going to meet it, and it just brings the Falcon 9 back. There's no crew on that one.
It's not rocket science.
It's a drone. It's a drone. The drone part's the easy bit. It's getting it to land.
Our career require domestic mapping websites, but fake forest images over military sites. Well, of course, we give away our military sites from our Strava running data, don't we? So we don't need to worry about any of these things. That, of course, was a big data scandal. What was I going to say then? I don't know. Well, again, I keep forgetting things. It's been a funny old week here. What other stories have there been?
So I know that Western Park, our big hobby event, went on a couple of weeks ago now. The CAA were in attendance. And they were checking up on things. And someone landed, I know of 2 incidences. One, I know the pilot, it was a turbine, and the blade went through the actual turbine. It let itself go. So he put that down safely. But the other one was one of those, they fly like a group of 20 of them. I forget what it was, like a small, it's just a little sporty plane. They all fly around. But one landed and the wing came detached. The wing bolt basically on landing became detached. The CAA made them fill in a report on that.
An MOR. Oh no! It begins.
Yeah. So the CAA now are going to events and making sure that the pilots are filling in the reports on if they don't land, if something happens.
Yeah, like mandatory occurrence report, MOR.
Yeah, making sure that it's all going on now.
I suppose that makes a little bit of sense because it's a big public event.
Should it not have always happened? There is an argument if you're going to, compliance. So we have a model aviation that sat back and said drones are dangerous. You know, many of the model side of the industry has kicked up against drones. We all know there has been some frankly horrific accidents on the model side of aviation for a long time. There has been, you know, just look at the BMFA's annual report, which talks about some of this stuff, and there is some quite serious stuff. Yet, I'm not saying it's brushed under the carpet. That's probably not the right term to use, but it's certainly been overlooked that model aviation is nice and safe and drones are nasty. So perhaps this might level the playing field up a little bit.
But how many injuries are there on the soccer field every year versus on the model field?
I think it's the problem that's going to be interesting is because it's like the first year now that we're in, the model flyers flying under Article 16 in the UK, it's under the specific category, for example, which is where it sits, and you have to report incidents. The problem is this will be the first year for a data set, and everyone's going to go, there were 2,000 incidents. That's horrendous, or 1,000 or 5. It doesn't matter what the number is going to be honest. The number's almost irrelevant. People are just going to point at it and go, see, model flying's not safe.
Exactly. It'd be like the AirProx reports. Oh, look at all this, look at this. If they've got data, then the media will get hold of it and they'll blow it out of proportion and they'll just dig a bigger hole for us.
Well, again, back to Gatwick, that's exactly, they use the AirProx reports as being a gauge of the number of drone incidents and sightings when we know that 99% of them are utter nonsense.
You can bet there'll be one filed in Scotland last week.
Yeah, and you're bob on right, and that gets added as one. When as Ian, again, the king of the Battle of Gatwick, discovered when he forwarded for just the mention of the word drone on reports, and that got added up as a drone incident. If people having them stolen is a drone incident, add one to drone incident. Neighbors complaining about them, add one. You know, it was nonsense. All the things he discovered with that.
Even if you ring the police to tell them I'm in this area,
yes, to do some flying, yes.
So you're pre-warning them, but guess what? He gets locked out.
Drone incident. Yeah.
Which is why I absolutely refuse to phone the police. I'll log it on Nats Drone Assist if I think the area is a bit sensitive, but I point blank refuse to ring the police because, as far as I'm concerned, I will not add to that +1. I'm damned if I will. Yeah. And you know, thankfully we've also got AirProx reality check. If anyone in the UK is interested about AirProx and reports of drones and what's going on, AirProx reality check in the UK is run by Simon Dale and his dad. They are fantastic. They do a great job. Check out that website, and it will just show you how easy it is to take something that you see in the sky and you go, oh, it's a drone. And when you actually look at the data, it's not. And what's really scary is it looks like they're doing a better job than the AirProx board actually are. They're actually doing a better job than the CIA at looking at the data. And that is quite scary in its own.
We're really surprised at that, though.
No.
Bias kicks in instantly with these organizations. We know they're biased. We know it doesn't suit the agenda that drones are actually absolutely.
Well, Cranfield stood up with Thales, remember the name, with Thales this week, stood up their future part of another little bolt onto the future flight thing. And the photo of the people next to the aeroplane was all people in ties and suits and whatever. And you just look at the cross and think, this is none of the people that have flown in the industry, are interested in flying in the industry, or know what needs to actually be done whilst flying in the industry. These are the wrong people in the photo.
The problem with things like AirProx reality is we're preaching to a very small choir. The people who need to know are not going to be going there, not going to be looking at that. We need to get a much broader coverage than just, the media aren't going to Airprox Reality Report. They'd rather go to the Airprox reports and get the saucy stuff. So we need to go out there, and the next phase of my little campaign is to be very aggressive in taking the message out beyond the confines of our own little community, taking it out to the public who are completely ignorant of what's going on, and alerting them to the realities of the thing. So I've got a couple of videos planned, painting a very rosy picture of the hobby and children and flowers and sunshine and things, and then giant Monty Python boots stomping it all down because that's what the regulations are doing. Just reminding people of what we're losing and asking them, is this the future you want for your children?
Yeah, I mean, it's like all things. We're getting more and more regulation. Have you seen? Well, you've probably maybe not seen it, but new cars here soon. We're going to have cars that nag you if you go over 30 miles per hour, for example, in a 30 zone. We've got all kinds of namby-pamby stuff coming.
That's
speaking of that,
into vehicle to vehicle, isn't it? Sorry, Bruce, after you.
When you buy a Japanese import, they have a little buzzer that goes bing, 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 bing when you go over 100 kilometers an hour, because that's the limit. So in Japan, they already have these naggy things. But do you realize in the USA, there are people being fined huge amounts of money because now it is illegal to modify a car in any way? The engine, all that sort of stuff. There are people selling performance add-on parts, and they are being banged with massive great fines because they're not allowed to do it.
Haven't they just undone that with the right to repair?
They've got no. That's not right to repair. There's a thing called the RPM Act where they want to reverse this restriction. But no, you can't sell aftermarket headers or turbocharger kits or whatever because they're saying, it'll damage the emissions will be changed. So the performance aftermarket or the aftermarket performance market is dead over there. It's like, what the hell's going on? If your vehicle's got a VIN, you may not change it from the factory spec.
That's a I was going to say multi-million pound industry, but in America, that's probably $1 billion industry they've screwed over. And
there's people who've been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for selling parts which are add-on performance parts because now it's illegal.
Is that in every state, Bruce, or is that just some?
Was that Ian?
Is that in every state, or is it just?
I'm not sure. It is in California, but I'm pretty sure it's a federal regulation now. I think I'm not. I may be wrong, but I've seen a lot of channels in different parts of the states talking about it. So, but it's like, I know California, you can't take the tag off your mattress without being imprisoned, but it's a real sort of dictatorial state. But I think it's spreading right across the country.
It's
wow. Yeah,
we have to have laws for every little thing. And it's like drones. If a drone is a nuisance, we've got to have a new law or a new way to fine you for having a drone and flying it in a nuisance. Although there was always the rules and laws, and if you cause a nuisance, we could do you under that law. But no. We need a new law because that one over there is about if you're just a nuisance. This one's about you're flying a drone and being a nuisance. So we've got to make a new law for this. Who
was the politician that said, for every new law we make, we've got to repeal 2 because there are too many laws? Was it Trump? Someone said that.
It was one of them.
Idea.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. 24 hours of lemons. Oh, 24 hours of lemons. I think I get it now.
I don't.
Le Mans. I think.
Oh,
very good.
But that's not in America.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Right to repair. I'm all down for that.
It is getting a lot of traction. Lewis Rossman has been doing a huge amount with it. The only issue is it's getting a lot of attraction, not necessarily where it needs to be. I have been following it closely, and a lot of it is being driven by the US tractor industry. Through the likes of John Deere and that. Yeah. And where my concern right now is looking at this is the government are likely to legislate on that side of it. Whether they're going to go full and follow it through to actual devices like Apple, for instance, and those, this comes down to, Lewis Rossman put this really well the other day. He goes, I don't care how hard a manufacturer makes it for me to fix the machine. I don't care if they glue it together. I don't care if they make it impossible. All I ask is, if I manage to get it apart, you sell me the piece I need to fix it. And that's the point. And there's so much of this because people are, manufacturers arguing, it has to be easier. And look, DJI are the worst at this. They are, if we spin this to the drone industry, this affects the drone industry every day.
Should we be worried that Ian's beeping? Is there a bomb in your lap? What's going on?
That's my
generally something is about to break and there's generally an alarm going off. So I actually think we should view it as situation normal, all is right in the world.
You do realise that Ian's advertising his chair on your channel, by the way? He noticed how it's spun that, so logo is.
He needs to have a little label that says affiliate link in the description below the top 15.
No, it just rotates. But no, okay, on this right to repair thing, there is a genuine issue. Look, I'm the person that broke his DJI FPV remote, making a video on showing people how to take it apart, and I was doing something else and slipped. Genuine mistake. I could not buy a cable. I could not buy a ribbon cable to fix it. Bruce knows what I ended up having to do. I literally ended up having to pin out a 20-pin cable to make it work, and I managed to just successfully do it, apart from bridging 2 of the pins. But this affects everything. You try buying a part for a Phantom. You try buying a part for a Mavic. You can't. You can't even buy a motor from DJI for these models. If you go on the DJI website, they don't sell parts at all for any of these drones.
Will that make it interesting, though, if we did have right to repair, and then they release the aircraft, and then they have to release all the parts as well? That's going to make it really interesting.
Well, was it the Apple II that was released with the schematic? And they say, if you're a bit of electronics, then come with a schematic. Don't trust it. It is of a different time, isn't it? I recently, a friend offered, I foolishly said, I'll change the battery in your very posh Bluetooth speaker thing, dear friend of mine. I've seen them on the internet, so it can't be hard. I can see there's a connector on the end of this thing you buy for a few dollars. I'll do that. Of course, I didn't realize that, you can get to the battery, where the battery cover is, but to actually change the end of the socket without snipping the wires and bodging them together, I had to take the whole case apart because they routed the wire through and around the back of another motherboard. So that, to me, is where the right to repair should, make the batteries simple to change. It's just simple stuff like that.
Look at cell phones, smartphones. They used to be replaceable batteries, but not now, because they figure we just buy a new phone. And that's a way of actually forcing upgrades through the system and keeping the revenues going.
Lewis Rossman is doing a lot with this. It was great to see Woz stepped in on this last week. Woz himself commented on right to repair because Lewis got him involved. And the irony is the biggest culprit of this is Apple, and Woz is on board. So there is a movement. Whether, though, I think it's going to hit users, I think we're 10 years off. I honestly
The EU is talking about removing or stopping the use of glue for keeping stuff in, which is not a bad idea.
Well, the thing is, we already have so much e-waste. I would believe I'd love to buy a phone that was upgradable, modular. I don't care if it's a bit thicker and clunky. I don't give a damn. But if it was modular and upgradable, so I didn't have to buy a new phone every couple of years just because the battery went flat, I think there's a market for that. But no one seems to be wanting to go down that path.
No, just chuck it away. Just chuck it away.
I've got to, there is a lot of criticism due at Apple, but there should also be, the products do last. My iPhone now is 3 to 4 years old and is still going fine. So that they do break, and users break them.
His battery's going to fail tomorrow.
And MacBook Pros are semi-water resistant.
They are water resistant. What IP rating was that? Yeah, IP rating. What?
IP. It doesn't work again. Yeah. But the drone industry suffers from this as well, and it is something we need. Look, you can't buy Phantom batteries. You can't buy Inspire 1 batteries today. You can't buy batteries for the Autel Evo. The Autel X-Star. There's a huge amount of kickoff on the Autel forums right now about batteries. You can't buy batteries for the older models. Now, the Autel community seems a bit new to all of this, that this is how the off-the-shelf consumer drone industry works. 2 years, that's what you get. Buy everything you need in the first 2 years, because if you don't, you won't get it after that. But is that right? The Inspire 1 released in 2014. I think the Inspire one might have been early 2015. So that drone's now 6 years old. You can't buy batteries. Is that right?
Can't get props either.
You can't get props either. You know?
I think what they should do though is if they're going to not be able to make the parts themselves, they should then make it available for other manufacturers to produce those parts. I mean, because one of the problems that Lewis Rossman's had, even when he's importing genuine parts from China, which have been stripped out of old phones, they get seized at the border and confiscated because it's a breach of Apple's trademark, apparently.
Yes. Yeah.
So how long should something be available to repair? How long should those parts be available? Should it be?
Well, it should be perhaps it should be. You buy the thing. The company says there will be parts for 5 years.
3 years.
No, would that be up to the company? Then you, as a consumer, have the choice. You go, well, am I going to buy this thing that's only going to be supported for a year, or am I going to buy the thing that's going to be supported for 10 years?
Yeah. So that's kind of it, isn't it? Because it comes out, it's released. Do they go right? Well, 6 months after its end of life, if you like, after 6 months after that, we're not supporting it at all.
Yeah, well, just as long as you know that number when you buy the thing. Oh, it would be nice to know that number when you buy the thing, wouldn't it?
I think it'd be nicer too to have a legal requirement that if you are not going to support your product, you cannot stop others from doing the same, from actually supporting it with lack of your support.
It is. The EU does have a law coming around parts availability and stuff like this, but there are too many get-outs in it. You know, the car industry got completely turned over because of this stuff in the UK many years ago. You know, they used to have the rules where you could only have your service done at a main dealer, and they didn't have to provide access to the ECUs and all of this crap.
Yeah.
And they got completely destroyed by the EU. So there is a real possibility the likes of Apple and Google will, because the EU is, you know, if you think back, someone was speaking about this the other day. Do you remember the Microsoft antitrust? They turned Microsoft over for installing Internet Explorer as standard. Yet Apple and Google have been allowed to do whatever the hell they want for the last 10 years. It makes you wonder what they've got over the regulators. Because in the US, they literally nailed Microsoft for installing a browser. That's all. One browser. Buy an Android phone today and see how many apps are forced upon you. Apple, look how many apps are forced upon you. Yet nothing's being done.
Well, doesn't Google pay Apple to have Chrome on it or whatever?
Google Maps.
Yeah, they do pay to put apps on devices. Yeah, and I remember that about Internet Explorer. Was it because they wouldn't let any other web browser be on there?
No, it wasn't even that. It was that it was default to install. Now, when you installed Windows after the EU ruling, it then came up with an option saying, here are the 5 browsers that are available. We recommend this, but you can choose one of these. Over a browser. Just a browser, you know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but Microsoft are going to have the last laugh now, aren't they, with this new Office 365, which will run in a browser, and it's going to kill PC sales because any device, you no longer need to have the super duper computer to run your Office stuff. Any device that can run a browser, in theory, will be able to run flat out Office 365. That's the new model for them, isn't it?
Yeah, but that lightweight client thing has been tried many times before and failed because people like to play games and they like to do other stuff that does require horsepower. So, apparently.
On their work machines, surely
have you not played Solitaire? Microsoft Solitaire is fantastic. And they may put that on there.
Only playing Minecraft. Is it Minecraft? Yeah, it was
Minesweeper. You young people, you don't remember that.
yeah. It's quite funny how many extra things the laptops that we give to the staff at school seem to do in their time, and how upset they get when they come in because they've done this, that, or the other and fouled it up when it's not one single thing that they're supposed to do.
And we've all seen the risks of software as a service recently with that horrible bit of malware attack through that software as a service provider. So I think people may withdraw a little bit from that side of, certainly in the corporate environment, it is a big risk.
Well, China, and of course, then there's the China hacking the old Outlook Express server.
Who uses Outlook Express?
Well, not Outlook Express. They were attacking. They were attacking a certain server, weren't they, to do with Windows?
Yeah, there's a server vulnerability they exploited.
Yeah,
Do you know what, Doverans? I'm sorry, I'm going to butt in with some important news. It went to Fortnite, but the children have reverted to Minecraft. They're over Fortnite now.
Oh, monthly is the new thing.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah. Fortnightly is it's old. Go monthly. It's even bigger, but less frequently.
What do your children play in? Do they play Minecraft and Fortnite?
Minecraft? No, mine's a bit young for Fortnite. Minecraft or Roblox?
Yeah, Roblox. Yeah, that's
Roblox
the other one.
Yeah.
The last game I played was Captain Comic.
I did install
You
Command.
remember-
I bought and installed Command and Conquer.
Commander Keen?
Because they've
sorry. It was Captain Comic, Commander Keen, Duke Nukem. Oh, my favorite games of the years gone by.
Well, that used to be one of the things if your computer could run it, wasn't it? As well as, of course.
I remember when Castle
Flight
Wolfenstein came out. That was just
the
first person shooter. That was just amazing. And in fact, I was running an IT part of a large telco at the time, and I thought, well, it's very quiet out there today. What's going on? Everyone had loaded up Castle Wolfenstein on their computers and was playing it. I was supposed to be working, so we had a 1 hour play break and then got back to work.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Must be the children are wrong. Yeah, must be the children are wrong. No, I'm always amused when Minecraft gets popular again, and just how much learning you can get into Minecraft. And
Roblox, I don't quite get my head around Roblox. It's a bit of a weird game, and they start playing tycoons, and I just get my boy going, "We're gonna go play a tycoon," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You know?
Yeah. I struggle to keep up with them all at school,
and it's hard to sleep with the clicking of relays and the buzzing of rheostats when you're trying to go to bed. The kids are gaming in the other room.
Both my kids have got bloody laptops.
Big clunky micro switch joysticks. Yes.
Is it wrong a 6-year-old has a laptop? Don't know. I had to buy him one at school.
I think you got to be a bit careful. You be a bit careful
it's all
what they're
down.
looking at.
Yeah, it's all
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how the little devils were all they turned the Bluetooth onto the school iPad so they can stand outside the IT room and then filch the internet through the iPads. And so I said, "So what do you do to them? Do you punish them, or do you say, well done, good tech solution?" I'm afraid I go for that answer, but it's like, well done. And every time they get through whatever systems, everyone's up in arms, and I'm like, well done, very good. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
They always defeat
all of the
us.
grown-ups are getting upset. Can you just not do that one again?
That is effectively what I say. Yes, you're upsetting grown-ups. I don't mind, but just be careful. Yeah, no, but there's some horrible. They can fall into some horrible traps. It's a grim old world out there. Well, if we've gone off here, we've definitely gone off topic. That's not at all, Droney. Right. So that must mean I've got to say, what other stories have we seen before we get? Oh, we had one little one again, almost the EU. I noticed the CAA also put out. Don't forget, if you live in a third country and you're planning on traveling to EU to fly your drone, you need to pass this paperwork. It's like, by the way, if you live in a third, and then I generally saw people saying, well, they don't mean us, do they? I genuinely saw that.
What still, it seems hard for people to grasp. We've left the EU, as everyone knows, right? So we're out of the EU. What's really interesting, but we're still in Europe, and it's amazing how many people.
Well, yeah, in a global sense, yes,
Well, yeah, we are. The UK has not been cut off the continental shelf.
Yeah.
If we were and we set sail, Ireland would go with us because Ireland is connected to us, so we would both disappear into the sunset. We're part of Europe. It's just the EU political system we're not involved in anymore. That's what people kind of got to get their heads around.
But no, but they haven't got their heads around the fact that I'm in a third country here in South Africa. This is a third country. We're in exactly the same. Bruce is in a third country.
Where does Scotland fit in? Is that third world country?
I still think it's going to be very interesting if they get their independence. If they took the airspace with them, that would balk the UK's. They've got a flight information region, the Scottish FIR, so it's already there. So all you got to do is just change a little bit of wording on the maps. That's all the tracks out to North America.
Little toll booth along the border.
It's all the low cost tracks to North America. All the higher polar tracks go through that bit of airspace. So that's a valuable. It would be a valuable chunk of airspace.
The problem is Scotland would then have to have its own air force because, of course, the Russians keep prodding it. So, and they don't want any military up there. They don't want anything like that. They don't want, if Scotland got independence, we would lose all.
They would use when there's a scramble, you must see all the French stuff that comes up, all the French AWACS that come up and fly in the UK. And then the fighters that fly out of the rest of Europe, so it's fine. They don't need the Royal Air Force. They'll use
they're French because the navigation lights blink Morse code.
Yeah, Morse code, exactly. No, when there's a big shout, the whole of Europe moves up through. So it's not just the RAF scrambling and going. So Scotland would easily get around that.
It will be interesting. I don't think they'll get the vote because it won't be allowed. So she'll have to backdoor it somehow.
Yeah, well,
saying the Scottish minister likes to backdoor?
No,
demonetized, restricted R18. This is not going to be mainstream stream. Fans only.
But it would just be interesting if they were to lose that airspace. It would be very, 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 very interesting. So then you have a block from Ireland through Scotland into mainland Europe.
Yeah, because it would also affect the top of the Shamwick, wouldn't it? As it goes out. As it goes out because it goes. There's the Scottish FI at the top, and then the Shamwick to the.
That's the oceanic stuff.
The oceanic. Because that's massive. I don't think people quite understand how big that is.
Oh yeah. It goes out to 10 West and up to 61 North. I think 61 North, 10 West, off the top of my head.
100,000 square miles.
Yeah, that was quite a drop of revenue. That would be. Ireland's economy is driven by the UN investments on manufacturing moved from Germany to Ireland. Yeah, it's because it's cheaper. Yeah, well, we'll see. But I'm just amazed that people have forgotten they need to make sure they're correctly qualified to fly in Europe now.
Just go do the Luxembourg test. It is free.
Yeah.
It's really good. EU control. It's free. It'll take you about 2 hours, maybe 2 hours. It's free. That gets you into the A1 and the A3 open category and the A1 category. So all is good.
All is good. All is good.
Or do the Irish version. So if you do the Irish version, interestingly, you can register as an operator for Ireland, which also then means that is valid in the rest of the EU. Your operator ID for Ireland becomes valid. But that's the tricky bit. So if you go the Luxembourg route, you then have to register as an operator in the country that you're going to fly in. And that's the tricky bit. Registering it as that operator, so you'll use your Luxembourg certificate saying I've passed. Then registering as the operator is a pain, but do the Irish A3 open category with their A1 and register as an operator. It costs about €30. You can then you've got your stuff and it'll all work in the rest of the EU.
Or you can wind the clock back 10 years and just go and fly and ignore the rules.
Or just go and fly and ignore the rules because no one's died yet.
Exactly. If they make the rules too hard to comply with, they become advisory.
And what's bizarre is, so even across the whole of mainland EU, what label you stick on your drone varies from country to country. So for example, Spain, I think it doesn't have to be fireproof, but France does, for example. It's just an example. So some have to be made of metal. Some actually have to be made of metal with your operator ID and glued onto your drone in a fireproof way, so it can't.
I thought it was summer in the UK. What's happened to Ian's legs? They're very white.
In the humidity, there's summer in the UK. The humidity is astounding at the minute. I've had a thunderstorm here a few hours ago, and the humidity normally just drops after they get a cool, fresh air. No, it's horrendous here at the minute. It's only 30 degrees, but it's the humidity that's killing. It's the humidity.
It's snowflakes, Gary. They're just snowflakes.
It's just the humidity is worse here because if you get to other countries, you just get hot weather. It's just hot, which is fine. Just hot. I'm happy, but this is just. Oh yeah, the humidity is just horrible. I don't know.
And you're free now, aren't you, over there? You've had your freedom. Have you got your freedom in Wales?
No, not a lot's changed here yet. We're behind you guys. We're getting a bit more freedom this week.
So, so we've been set free, but I went to the supermarket earlier. Just about everyone was wearing a mask still.
Good.
Although the students, when they let everyone go partying last night, and you could see these nightclubs full of young people, and you're thinking, all it needs is one of you to have it. In that kind of environment, it will just go through everything. I can see there's going to be a massive explosion in about a month. It's going to be interesting. I do wonder if August, maybe September, if we don't have to go into another lockdown. If it gets bad, we might have to.
And it'll be the worst time too, because it'll be getting cold. People will be indoors huddled together. Yeah.
Well, that's it. It kept our summer last year kept it at bay, but this third wave we've been going through here, we're midwinter, and so it's bad news. It's calming down, but of course we had our big events last week, and if you want a super spreader event, then a 3-kilometer queue to ransack the largest set of warehouses in our province for 3 days. That's a super spreading event. And
those medieval music concerts, they attract the crowds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite bizarre here because it looks like everyone above 40 has applied a lot of common sense and they've had their 2 stabbings. So you've been out, you've been stabbed twice. And of course, once you've been stabbed once or twice, all it does is reduce the risk of you catching it a bit, but you can still catch it. The idea is the vaccination means that basically you shouldn't end up in hospital. That's the hope. You don't end up in hospital. You just end up ill for a bit.
And your 5G phone works better.
Yeah. Your 5G works. That's the only thing. But young people, when you saw it and you're thinking, apparently the uptake on the younger generation isn't quite as high as what it is for the older generation. It's going to be interesting, I think. And I do hope that people have a bit of common sense.
Well, so, my
common sense is very limited. Our government here, it's the mighty dollar. It's lobbying. It's people that have got cash crossing palms because we opened a travel bubble with Australia. We had no community transmission in New Zealand. So we opened a travel bubble with Australia, knowing that Australia would obviously some stage get community transmission. They got community transmission in one state in Australia. So they closed the bubble with that state, but left it open with the other states, being very much aware that people in that state are going to travel, right? So then it went to another state. So that state's got community transmission. So they closed the bubble with that one. We've still got the bubble open with Queensland, which invariably must have cases. We're compromising our entire community transmission free status just so that the tourism industry can supposedly make some money. But there's just as many people traveling from New Zealand to Australia as there are from Australia to New Zealand. So it just means that we have some Australians spending their money here and some Kiwis spending their money in Australia. The industry is no better off because they gain and lose at the same rates. It's like, what on earth? Why are these people so damn stupid? It's astounding, and you're right, Bruce, because here they go, we're going to open up to like other countries in mainland Europe, and you can go, and then they're shutting it, and people are going, but you said it was a green country, and now it's an amber country, and now we've got to do this and we've got to do that. It's like you were stupid enough to book the holiday.
I absolutely have no sympathy for you at all.
It's the same here. Because, and what's even worse, they said if you go to Australia, be aware that the bubble could be closed at any time and you'll be stuck there. You have to do 14 days quarantine. And so what's happened is people are coming back. They went over on holiday. Now they're coming back and they're getting a free 2-week stay in a hotel at the taxpayer's expense.
Free? Free?
Yeah, some of them.
Not in England, you're not.
It's lunacy. You're supposed to pay, but under the special circumstances, some people have been exempted from having to pay. It's like, we have too much taxpayers' money. We should just be littering it through the streets. That would solve the whole problem.
Yeah, it's sort of a thing that you feel that we're in the cusp of sorting it out. If we can be a little bit draconian, everyone stop. Let's sort it out best we can. Or get the world into a better place.
There's no sorting it. It's going to spread. We've just proved the UK is the first real test bed for the vaccination. New Zealand, Australia are different because they've not had the case numbers like we've had. The Europe isn't anywhere near where we're at from a vaccination point of view, and the US is so different anyway. So we're the test bed. We vaccinated a massive amount of the population. Yep. We're going to try doing normal life. What you're going to see is COVID spread like hell.
Thanks.
And it has.
Yeah. You tried. We won't.
No, what's being proven is that you're not going to make this go away. There's no hiding. New Zealand, they've managed to keep it out, but that can't happen forever. There's a point where even over with Bruce and they'll get to the same stage of we're at with the vaccinations, and then there's a point where you have to say, when it comes, it comes. People are going to die. More people are going to get it, and it's going to be like this for the next 50 years. And
what happens now with the beta variant, which is I think 5% of France, and it appears that the vaccine is very ineffective against the beta variant. So we're going to have new strains that if you're vaccinated, you're still going to get it. You're still going to get just as sick, and you're right back where you started with at ground zero. We just have to open the doors and say, all right, if you're going to die, you're going to die. It worked in the days of the Spanish flu and the Black Plague and things. And good luck to you. And pat them on the back and carry on business as usual and just bring out your dead.
Just say, be careful. Just be bloody careful. That's all you have to do. Just because I've not changed what I've done for the last 6 months, and I have no intention of changing it for the next 6. I will still be being very cautious. I will still be washing my hands, still avoiding.
But being careful won't stop you catching the virus. If it's out there, you're going to be exposed at some stage. So being careful just puts us the inevitable decisions. Go out, lick the backs of people's head and roll the dice.
Well, what I found amazing, I've done a bit of traveling recently, and I cannot believe the amount of people that you go to motorway services, don't wash their hands or anything, and then touch doors and everything, and you're thinking, no wonder this thing spreads so easily, because we're just terrible. We're
sterile, isn't it?
Well, we're humans
under the stream.
We're just humans or animals, and we're not considerate to anyone else. We don't think of anyone else. You only think of yourself.
Mark, but it's that behavior that gave us the immunities we have. And that's the irony of it. And I see it,
this is this is
the comment. I'm a guy that spent a lot of time in public toilets. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Go to his OnlyFans channel to find out why.
I'm the man there's no coming back from that, is there? But no, look, I've spent the time traveling, and I've seen it all. There are times I've sat there and wondered, how does that get up there? How do people manage to make that go up there? But there's a point where we just got to get on with it, but not run out and go clubbing. Do you know what I mean? You won't find me in a nightclub in any time in the next few years, to say the least.
Well, when would you be there,
aren't you?
Every weekend.
You know they don't have disco balls anymore. I'm taking those disco balls down. You wouldn't believe it.
Glow sticks and the beach.
Tidy toilets.
Well, a group of my friends went out a few weeks ago, and I was like, "No, I've just had my second stabbing. I can't afford the NHS ping. I can't afford time off. I'm just not going out because you can't afford to take the risk." But that's what's happening in a minute. There's more people not at work now than ever because the app is just pinging people.
Yeah,
and it's getting really interesting. So at the minute, they're saying supermarkets aren't getting stuff out of the warehouses fast enough and so forth.
I see some buses and trains are struggling to run because the drivers are just, you drive the bus, it's like,
well, it's quite clearly going to happen because if you've got 100 people getting on and off a train, and you've got an app on you that will ping you if someone comes within 2 meters of you, even though you're in the cabin by yourself, that person that's just walked by your door has pinged you to say it's now gone. Oh, they have COVID. They've been with someone with COVID, so now it's going to ping you. The lack of
turn off the Bluetooth. Wrap your phone in tinfoil. Solves the problem.
No, don't install the app. Is solve the problem. Not on my phone. Yeah, well, it's not. I'll admit it. I do not have the NHS Trace and Track app on my phone. I will admit to that.
Bruce's phone wouldn't know what an app is. It's still running DOS. At the end
Southern
of the
Hemisphere.
we rock. It's not Starlink compatible.
Yeah.
You can walk down a high street now where there's a lot of people. And again, if you're walking past and you've got the app running, it could just ping like 100 people just by one person walking down a high street. And that's 100 people that won't go to work. It's just, of course it's going to happen. What did they think was going to happen?
What is concerning is there was a bit of hoo-ha yesterday because one of the scientists said, and this made me laugh, that 60% of people being admitted had already had 2 jabs. And when he meant it was 60% of people hadn't. But when you spin that the other way, that means 40% had. So the figures aren't much better. Everyone was running around going, "Oh my God, 60%." He went, "No, it's not 60%. 60% haven't." But that's only that means 40% have. That's still. Hopefully, it's keeping the deaths under control. As long as it's doing that, we'll just have to mooch through. That's all we can do.
That's the hopeful bit, isn't it? That's why I happily went and got stabbed twice. AstraZeneca was the one I got stabbed with, and it's got to be a better option than ending up in hospital. A lot of people get worked up about the 1 in so many chance of, something going wrong like a blood clot. But if you go for any hospital procedure, it's like 1 in 300,000 chance something will go wrong. Well, let me think about that for a minute. 1 in 16 million or 1 in 300,000.
I'll openly say I wasn't comfortable. I'll openly say it. I had mine and thoroughly regretted it because within 2 days of me having mine, they announced that they weren't going to give it to below 40-year-olds. And I am just over 40, but it was like, hold on a minute, I feel like I've been stitched up here. Do you know what I mean? They've changed the rules. But once I had it, there was a point I went, well, it is what it is. I had my second one 2.5 weeks ago now, and I'm done and dusted. So I'm not looking forward to it.
You realize, of course, this is a giant conspiracy. Let's get this video fully demonetized. China released this virus on the world.
He's getting the chair back in. Hang on, he's making sure the chair's back.
I'm trying to recover your channel, Gary.
Yeah.
China released this virus with the full knowledge that it was going to kill a few people, but everyone would get immunized against it. Now they've got the next version, which will only take out the people who've been immunized, because all the world leaders, all the military forces around the world have been immunized. So once they release the second one, everyone with the jabs dies. They can walk in, take over everything, no risk to their military assets, no risk to their capital. It's a fantastic idea.
Well, Gary,
Who is they?
China. I'm going to invite you, Gary, on
in
a couple of weeks to talk about what went wrong with SUAS News. What was the point you realised, Gary, that it was no longer going to work?
It was the one where the Scottish minister was accused of the Scottish minister was accused of unusual practices. Public toilets were mentioned. Lots of COVID stuff. What else we said? Oh, Gatwick conspiracy. That'll be the one. Dear.
Do you notice how we come and do this on your channel because we wouldn't dare do it on our own?
I know. Oh, dear. I think it's definitely time to go. I think it's definitely time to go.
Can I ask Ian and Bruce a question?
No.
You won't believe what happens next.
So yes, nobody will believe.
This is the important question. It's been a while. I've not been here for a bit. Do you still have fully working FPV?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good question.
How come you two can keep them in one piece, but everyone else?
Because I don't fly it.
We don't fly them forever.
Yeah, because we don't fly the bloody things.
Yeah.
Simple sits on a box beside my desk because it keeps telling me you can't fly here.
No, to be honest, I haven't flown it. I've been flying full standard FPVs. To be honest, I am 50-50 on selling it.
Oh, really?
Now, because,
you don't fly it enough.
Yeah, the only real reason to keep it right now is for making content in the sense of updates and stuff. And I'm just not convinced anyone's really interested.
Did he just have a big pair of pliers in his hand and he was applying them to the thing? This is where he breaks it.
He's working on the USB port, mate.
Yeah.
I am tempted to, because I'm in the middle of doing a build, which is sort of how to build not an equivalent DJI FPV drone, because you'll never get it the same. But the idea is an Ardra Pilot-based small aircraft, which has the auto break-in features and stuff like that, which is in Ardra Pilot. And it's there, and the idea is you could start with Ardra Pilot and move it to Betaflight for like $50, rather than buy the DJI aircraft. And again, I still think it's the best learning FPV quad there is, but you'll grow out of it in 1 week to 3 months.
I don't know that it's the best learning. One mistake and it's gone.
I suppose it's the learning from scratch. No, you're probably right, Bruce. No, you are right.
You could buy yourself a $50 SEMA thing to get basic skills and then an FPV quad for the good stuff for the same
We've
money.
said it many times before. It ain't good at any of it, and that's its biggest problem. It's not a good camera drone. It's not a good FPV drone. It's literally not good at any of the bits it does. It's
the king of mediocrity.
Absolutely.
And of course, batteries cost how much for how many minutes?
Yeah, and the goggles shut down on hot days.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's the first DJI drone where I've genuinely been disappointed. And that's a hand on, every other one I've gone, I can understand what they've done here. I get the compromises. Do you know what I mean? You understand, a Mavic Mini, you can't complain about image quality on a Mavic Mini when it's 250 grams. It still punches well above its weight. A Mavic Pro does okay, but it does have pixel binning, or actually it's line skipping, not pixel binning. So there is some IQ issues here and there, but you can forgive that. The problem with the FPV drone is the image is frankly shite. It is not as good as a 250-gram Mavic Mini, and it's really not a good FPV drone either. So it doesn't do anything well. It has no smart features. I still don't understand. Where's the button that allows you to do flips and rolls automatically?
It's called disarm.
I thought that would have been the major selling point. An FPV drone you don't have to learn to actually fly FPV with and hit a button and it'll do smart shots, because that's what they've got on all their other drones, these smart shots. It's just not there.
Yeah, they were chasing the cinematic market. But one thing is an idea for a video for you, Ian. Go back and look at iJustine, Marcus Brownlee, all those people that got these drones to do the release, and see how many videos they've made since with FPV drone content. That'll be a good indicator as to whether people are using this product or whether they've just broken them and put them in a cupboard.
Well, someone actually said a lot of these have dumped them since the affiliate scheme closed. And someone actually put a comment on one of my videos saying I'm like one of the only people still talking about the product. I put a video up today on the product, and I'm one of the only people still talking about it, even though I was one of the only people to say the affiliate scheme is closing and who was involved in it. So it is interesting, Bruce, as you say, no one's making any money now. Why are they going to be, why are they going to do it?
No.
And I didn't mean that to sound quite me.
You could make money. You could put your chair in the shot during the video. That's his backstop.
You can't afford the chair, Bruce. You know this. We've discussed this before. You can't afford the advertising cost for this chair.
Yeah.
Have I mentioned they got
Right.
a new chair out?
Yeah, you did mention that, and I think you're going to buy one, and that chairs will have bought it for you.
I might not have.
Anyway,
I'm waiting for the 5G version. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth just don't cut it.
well, you've had your first jab, haven't you? So you've had the upgrade.
Does the new chair have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi?
Yes, it does.
No, Ian does now. It's
NFC.
fitted with
This
Ian.
one does.
Ian's fitted with it. Right, on that bombshell, I think we're talking definitely we've had half an hour waffle. Dear viewer, if you've stayed for the whole time, you get a like.
Sorry about that.
Give them a gold star. Gold star. The Marquis de Sade lives.
You're never going to get the time back. I'm going to warn you now.
You'll never get the best.
There's no refund. There's no time refund for what you just watched.
And if you're in the USA, you cannot fly now. You've been emotionally scarred by this.
Yeah, absolutely. Look after yourselves wherever you are in the world. If you're having to jabs in line for it and all that sort of thing, I hope it goes well for you and you don't have side effects, etc., etc. Just be safe out there, people, and enjoy your flying. We'll see you again 2100 GMT next week. Cheers for now. Thanks, chaps. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.